In the middle of this non-stop news cycle, we want to take a moment to reflect. John shares his thoughts on the big stories in our news series. We're calling it Reporter's Notebook. Such a great name for a series for you, John Dickerson. This week, he looks at the zero-tolerance immigration policy.
Politics has become so tribal in America that political conversations can now feel like the equivalent of the debate over Laurel versus Yanny. No amount of shouting changes what we hear. This routine looked to repeat itself in the debate over splitting the families of immigrants illegally crossing the border. The president's tribe rallied because the critics were the usual ones: liberals, elites, and supporters of looser immigration. The president blamed Democrats.
That's the Democrats' law.
The Attorney General said the Bible approved, and the Secretary of Homeland Security said the separations weren't happening at all. None of this was true, and that felt familiar also. Meanwhile, the children that were officially not being separated from their parents kept being separated from their parents. But then the pattern broke. The president's allies in Congress abandoned him. Religious leaders, even sympathetic ones, were appalled. Splitting families could not be defended by splitting hairs. In the pulpits and at picnics, purple momentarily replaced red and blue. People whose elitism was defined only by having children or having once been a child all agreed. But what did they agree on?
You are not forgotten.
They agreed to oppose splitting families, the basic unit of love that binds our common humanity. The Obama administration put unaccompanied minors in cages too, but it did not split children from their parents as regular policy. That was the difference.
This is what community looks like.
Americans were objecting to their government as the author of fresh misery for ragged-sleeved, worn-thin fellow human beings, whose only shield against their misery was kinship and hope.
Do the right thing. Treat these people as the human beings that they are.
And breaking families meant punishing children. The stories piled up. The young boy whose mother had sewn notes with the phone numbers of his relatives in his clothes, watching his father being taken away. The boy who cried himself into convulsions. And a 6-year-old girl repeatedly saying her aunt's phone number after her mother was taken away.
We're signing an executive order.
In the end, the president had zero tolerance for his own policy, because even in a time of tribal shouting, the human tribe spoke louder.
Wow, that's powerful that the president had zero tolerance for his own policy.
And to sum it up the way you did, too, I'm telling you that the nun says, Sister Norma said, you can't look at those little faces and not feel you have to do something and know that this is just wrong.
Well, it was the separation that everybody, that moved everybody to this story, the separating families, and that it landed on the children.
Gayle, you started this week talking about the Statue of Liberty, and we're reminded that people come to this country because we are the country of human rights, of rights, of a Constitution, a Bill of Rights. I mean, all of it. They come here for that very reason, and so I think this was offensive to people's understanding about what America really is.
Yeah, and we are going to start keeping count of how many kids remain separated from their parents. The count today is 1842. We will keep count. It started with 2,342. As of today, 1,842 kids still remain separated, and that's 1,842 kids too many.
We'll keep
in the hospital, Norah, when your baby's born, they give you a little bracelet with your name and his name. There has to be a system that we can keep track, and that has not happened. We failed these people miserably.
Agreed.
And we will keep track.
And think about that. You were there on Monday, shining a light on this story, and the president reversed his decision days later.
Yeah, a lot of light shined.